Thank you very much. Phil Brenner, I'm the 2024 chair of the Long Range Planning Advisory Committee. We've got a lot of stuff to cover here this afternoon, so I'm going to try and keep us on pace if I can. And we'll start here with kind of an overview of what we're going to touch on here. Very briefly, we're going to talk about our 2024 goals, and I'm going to give you a one-sentence update on those goals. We're going to talk about an updated housing forecast. The last couple of times I've been in front of you, we've talked about housing, and we've done some more work in that area. So I'm going to give you, again, a brief update on housing forecasts. And then we're going to spend the bulk of our time this afternoon responding to a request that the board made of the committee earlier this year to benchmark our rates, our POA fees, our amenity fees against comparable communities in the area and other options in the area that people might partake in. So with that, let's turn to my one-sentence update on goals. So on the left-hand side are the goals that we agreed to with the board earlier this year. Broadly, there are two goals. One is to continue the strategic long-range facilities plan and utilization forecast. This year, we're focusing in the area of parks and recreation, parking, and marinas. And the other broad goal is to produce a comprehensive benchmark of Tellico Village against other communities. My one-sentence update is all of these are in progress. So with that, let's turn to the housing forecast. So, the market is shifting on us, and we've talked about this the last couple of times as we approach build out. There are also economic factors that are at play here that caused us to go back and look at our model and think about how accurate our model was and whether or not we could do something better. So some data points here. Permits through July compared to last year are down 21%. Now, we're still having a pretty good year in terms of historical data, in terms of the number of homes being built in Tellico Village. But compared to the gangbuster years that we've had here the last 2 or 3 years, we're seeing a downtrend from that. When I was with you, I think it was in May, we talked about a build-out model where we tried to model what the build-out tail was going to look like and how that curve might flatten out. And in that discussion, I said, we think somewhere there's a cliff we're going to step off and, housing starts are going to, take a nosedive. And at that time, we said, we think it's maybe 2026, but we don't really know. We're sort of in uncharted waters here. So one of our members, Chris Alsop, went back to the drawing board and spent a lot of time thinking about our model and thinking about how we might better model what the housing forecast might look like. And he spent a lot of time coming up with a new model, which we won't spend a lot of time with because Chris could make your head explode explaining it to you. But I'll give you the layman's summary here. So he went back and looked at, I'll call it the life cycle of a lot. And he did that with ACC records, January of 2019 through the present. But he also used the Tennessee controller of the Treasury, who had lot data all the way back to 1985. And so they looked at every single lot and said, what's the life cycle of the lot? What stages does it go through? And kind of what are the dynamics of that? And out of that, he built a whole new model that was, we think, more reflective of what may be happening in the market and maybe a better guide for predicting what's coming in next. So with that, I'm going to start here in the lower left-hand corner. You really can't see the numbers. You don't need to. That is sort of the linear regression model that we have been working with and the actual data here for over the last decade or so. You can just see it's a 45-degree, almost, constant incline, up, 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 and up. The chart on the upper left is the new model that we have done, that Chris worked on. And the blue bars are the prediction of housing starts or permits. I should say permits getting pulled. And for 2024, that new model says 2024's permits will be somewhere around 200. And there's a gray band there. That's kind of the margin of error. It could be higher, it could be lower, but somewhere in that band. And as you can see, from 2024 forward, you can see the curve flat, the curve going down, flattening out. And on the right-hand side, then the inverse of this is the build-out percentage. And we've talked about build-out before. Again, the line is sort of the forecast model, and the band there is the margin of error, if you will. And we did a Monte Carlo analysis. The headline here is that the big picture story does not change. We are reaching build-out. Fewer and fewer lots are going to be available. The lot sales will go away. The revenue associated with it will go away. What the new model says is it's going to stretch out a little further, perhaps perhaps it's going to come a little sooner. The turn down is going to come a little sooner, meaning that build out will take a little bit longer than we had forecasted in the past. But at the end of the day, it's the same story. In terms of what does that mean for the POA staff and for the board, this chart sort of shows what does the old model and what does the new model predict in terms of housing permits. So I'll start here. 283 was the actual number of permits last year. When we built our model late last year, the model said 292 permits for 2024. The new model now says, we think it's more like 200 permits for 2024. And you can see you get kind of to the same end point, but the pace at which you get there is different. I will say that at the end of the day, based on the pace that we're on right now, we had 118 permits through July. If we kept that same pace, we would end up right around 200. Talking to the ACC, they feel like the market is softening. They're seeing fewer applications come before them. Although I will note that last year, December was the third highest permit month. So you can't just assume that the tail end of the year will be soft. We could see, an uptick in that. If you apply the January through July pace through the balance of the year, you'll end up around 200. If it softens a little, you're probably more like 160 to 180, somewhere in that neighborhood. What I will say is that would appear to land us north of what the POA budgeted. The POA budgeted 158 lots this year, and will land us south of what our models predicted. So kind of in between the budget and the model is what it's kind of looking like right now. That's the headline. I'll pause there to see if there are any questions. Like I said, the big picture doesn't change. These numbers perhaps will be of use as we get into budget times. If you look to 2025, the new model would say 142 permits for next year is what the model would predict. So as you roll into budgeting for next year, that's at least a starting point in terms of what to build into the budget.
All I was going to say, this is perfect timing for the budget season to see when we put our assumptions together. This is a good starting point.
All right, great.
And just Phil, just for a frame of reference for residents, can you speak to what communities normally see as a build out percentage where they really begin to flatline or top out?
Well, most developers figure 85% is build out. I think that's where developers say, I've made my money and I'm getting out of Dodge, and things start to tail out. There are fewer and fewer lots. We're already at 85%. And while permit activity is softening, if we end up between 150 and 200 permits, 4 years ago, we'd have said that's a hell of a year. That was before we were having 200 and 300 permits a year, which was crazy. So it's more the return to the mean, is what I would say. It's getting back to more of a normal pace, but there will be fewer and fewer lots available. So, the curve will flatten out.
And the end result is your ACC fees, which is a revenue stream to offset costs,
Right.
starts going down significantly.
Yeah. So that story hasn't changed. That revenue source is going away. All right. So selected rate benchmarks. So back in late spring, the board came to the committee. We had already agreed on a goal to do a benchmark, and for the audience, a benchmark is when you take your product or services or goods or whatever it is you do, and you compare it to your competition and say, how do you stack up? And so we already had a goal to kind of do that in terms of looking at Tellico Village, particularly with regard to amenities, to see how we stack up against other communities. But the board came to us and said, we'd like for you, the committee, to take on a special task here with regard to benchmarking. And that is to benchmark fees in the following areas. And what the board specifically asked us to do was to look at monthly assessments, marinas, and parenthetically, I'm going to say boat slips because maybe we don't operate a marina, but we do rent boat slips, recreation or gym memberships, and golf. And so we went to ground to work on that and kind of parked the other benchmarking. We've continued to work on it, but we really focused on the rate request that the board made for us. And specifically you asked for that in time to inform the budget cycle. So here we are, budget cycle, and we're going to share with you kind of what we found out. Let me talk a little bit first, though, about the challenge of making comparisons, right? Because what you're asking us to do here is to go find a bunch of data that's really hard to find. Most communities don't readily publish a lot of their fees and rates and assessments, and that data is really hard to get your hands on. So first of all, I want to extend my thanks to the other advisory committees that we worked with, marinas, golf, parks, and recs, who, you know, in the course of their own activities have done some benchmarking, and we relied on work that they have done to guide us and help us with filling in the blanks. But quite frankly, the other activity here was the committee turned into a bunch of secret shoppers. I mean, we were on the phone and we're sending emails and saying, hey, my name's Phil and I'm thinking about coming and living in your community. What can you tell me about it, right? And, you know, how much do you charge for this? And do you have a gym? You know, and this is very time consuming and difficult, and you don't always get all the answers. So I've got a tongue-in-cheek slide here, but at the end of the day, you're getting a bunch of numbers and you got to stand back and say, is this apples to apples? And, you know, sometimes it is. Sometimes it might be a green apple and a red apple, but it's apples to apples. Sometimes it's apples and oranges, and sometimes it's apples and bananas. And it's really difficult at times to kind of figure out what is what. So we've done our best, and you'll see throughout the presentation that we've tried to call out things where we say, this is not exactly the same, but it's kind of close, or we don't know if this is the same or not. And we're going to present to you the data. I will say that the Long Range Planning Advisory Committee is a fact-based, data-driven group. We're not in the policy-making business. So in the course of this presentation, I'm not going to make any recommendations about what our rates should or shouldn't be. I'm just going to show you the facts. This is the data, right? At the end of the day, whether you or I or anybody in the audience thinks that a particular rate or fee is reasonable or not reasonable, is a good value or not a good value, is ultimately in the eye of the beholder, right? So it's like beauty. It's in the eye of the beholder. That said, I'm going to start my presentation by where I'm going to end up here. I'm going to give you a little preview here of one potential way to measure how people vote with their dollars in terms of registering the value of things. This is multiple listing service data, January through July of this year. I'm going to start in the upper right-hand corner there. Those are year-to-date sales. We've got Tennessee National, Fairfield Glade, Rarity Bay, and Tellico Village. We don't have MLS data for Wind River. And it's a little hard to see here, but what I will tell you here, if I can read my own mouse type here, Tellico Village year-to-date had 289 home sales. That was 2.5 times Fairfield Glade, who of those communities is nearest to us in size. They've got about 5,000 homes there. We've got about 5,000 homes here, and our sales volume is 2.5 times their sales volume. The box below that is square footage. The homes there are slightly smaller, just under 2,000 feet. 2,000 square feet. We're more like 2,500 square feet. So you can see that. I think the aha moment is on the left-hand side, and this is again from MLS data. This is the average sold price per square foot for those communities. So in Tennessee National, it was $261. Fairfield Glade, $207. Rarity Bay, $257, if I can read my small print here. And in Tellico Village, $277. So people voting with their money in terms of where do they think there is value, because they're going to go buy a home somewhere, are voting to come to Tellico Village. So why is that? Let's turn to the data behind that. The first area the board asked us to look at was monthly assessments. And on the left-hand side is what you asked us for. And I'm going to take you through that. And then on the right-hand side, you get some bonus information here. So on the left-hand side here, we're going to start with Tennessee National. Their monthly assessment is $350. Fairfield Glade is $76. Wind River doesn't have a monthly assessment, but they have a required social membership fee, which is $295. Rarity Bay is a little different. Their business model is a little different. They have a what they call an annual master assessment that everybody pays. In addition to that, you pay a monthly or quarterly assessment depending on what community within Rarity Bay your house is located in. So you see multiple bars there for Rarity Bay, because depending on where you live, your assessment fee is slightly different. And at the bottom of the list there is Tellico Village at $176. The average for the group on the left, these are I'll call them our sister communities, the planned development, retirement focused communities in our own backyard. The average for that group is $242 a month. The footnote there, because I wanted to double check that against some other data, the U.S. Census Bureau does a housing survey. The last one they did was in 2021. And in that survey, they asked people who are in condos or other associations that pay a fee, what that fee is. And the average fee from the Census Bureau data was $191. Now, on the right-hand side, the board didn't ask for this, but in the course of doing our benchmarking work, we had already collected some information about some of the communities we are looking at there. So you have communities, so you can see them: Winding River, Sun City. I'm going to kind of skim through here. We won't go through them all. Savannah Lakes, Robeson Ranch is in Texas. Lake Providence, Glade Springs, another Cooper community in West Virginia. You can see the monthly assessment fees for each of those. And again, the orange bar at the bottom in the dashed line there is where Tellico Village falls. Now, again, back to my apples and oranges or apples and bananas comparison here. The devil is in the details on this. The footnote down below, Lake Providence has different fees depending on the size of your home. Robeson Ranch, they're $312, but that includes all their amenities except golf. Sun City and Hilton Head, they're $286. That includes lawn care, the pool, and fitness. So you really have to do a little digging to understand, is it apples to apples or not? But this gives you a snapshot at least of how Tellico Village's monthly assessment stacks up against the sister communities in our own backyard and some of the other communities that we're looking at in the course of our benchmarking. I'm going to pause here real quick here and see if there are any questions about assessments before we turn our attention to a bonus slide. A bonus slide. All right. So the board didn't ask, but since we were digging, we uncovered some information I thought I would share. These are buy-in or membership fees of our sister communities in the area. So starting with Rarity Bay at the top there, they have a required social membership. So when you buy into Rarity Bay, it's $10,000. That is not transferable. Every new property owner pays that $10,000 fee. In addition, you have a $600 annual food minimum that you have to spend in their facilities. And their social membership, in addition to the $10,000 up front, is $250 a month. So that's what it costs to live in Rarity Bay. Now, if you want a golf membership in Rarity Bay, which you can purchase, that's $25,000 up front. And then it's $400 a month. Now, that does include the social membership above, and the golf membership is transferable. So a new buyer can take on that golf membership. So again, if you're a golfer and want to play golf, you know, your upfront fee there would be $25,000 and then $400 a month. If you look at the center of the chart there, Wind River. So Wind River has a couple of fees, as I understand it here. If the property is sold to you by Wind River, it's $50,000 to buy into the community. If the property is not sold by Wind River, it's $100,000 to buy into the community. They have a required social membership, $295 a month. As I mentioned, that includes their gym, their pool, their sports complex. And they have a golf membership that you can buy into if you'd like to do that. And that's $650 a month. That includes the social membership, includes unlimited golf and a cart and the range. Fairfield Glade has just implemented, as of the 1st of July, so this is hot off the presses, a new amenity reserve fee. This is for what they call their A-tier residents. And I had to ask, because I didn't know what's an A-tier residence. In Fairfield Glade, a A-tier residence is a home on a paved street with utilities at the curb. And so the buy-in fee at Fairfield Glade is $5,000. Over at Tennessee National, you buy in with a golf membership there. They're a more golf-centric community. The buy-in there is $25,500, and the monthly golf fee is $630 a month, and that gets you unlimited golf at Tennessee National. At the bottom of this chart then is Tellico Village in the orange. We have been talking about and have proposed a 0.5% fee. And so I just put a couple of examples in there. On a $500,000 home, that would equate to $2,500. On a $750,000 home, that would equate to $3,750. So again, this was not specifically among the things you asked for back in the spring, but in the course of talking to these communities about their fees, you know, we uncovered all this and wanted to document it for you. So again, I'll pause here and see if you have any questions about that.
The only other piece I could add is on the your assessments. I know that Tennessee National, there is no cap. So if they decide next year that they need to increase the
Oh, in terms of
assessment,
annual increase?
yeah, there is no cap on your monthly assessments at Tennessee National.
All right, so we'll get back to the request here from the board. You asked for, literally what you asked for was marinas. I titled this boat slip because we'll talk a little bit about what's a boat slip and what's a marina. On the left-hand side, same kind of thing. Your left-hand side is what you asked for, or the sister communities. On the right-hand side are some local marinas that you might choose to put your boat at. Starting at the top here, we have Foothills Point, which is another community here on the lake. Their slips are $400. In Rarity Bay, they are $3,600. And Rarity Bay, the POA or there does not own or manage those. Those are owned and managed by Bay Docks Limited, which is a private entity. So there's a guy you got to call up and get a boat slip from. Fairfield Glade, $960. Tennessee National is, again here, I should have brought my glasses, $3,300. Wind River is $2,900 and change, and we are at $942. Now I should say this is for in our case, it's an 11 by 24 slip, uncovered. Wind River's a 12 by 30. Tennessee National is 11 by 26. That happens to be covered. I couldn't find a rate for uncovered. Maybe they're all covered at Tennessee National. I don't know. So, okay. So again, this is the apples and oranges thing. What can you get your hands on, and is it apples to apples or not? On the right-hand side are local marinas. If you said, you know, I'm not doing that, I'm going to just go put my boat at one of the local marinas. So Whispering Cove is at the top there for 3,700 and change. Chota Marina, Sequoia Marina, Tellico Marina, Fort Loud Marina, they're all in the $3,000 and north range. Again, we're at $942. The average on the left is $2,022. The average on the right was $3,124. Now, I do want to put a caveat here because in speaking with the Marinas Advisory Committee, and they gave you a very good presentation back in 2021, which I've referenced here. You know, part of this gets into what is or isn't a marina, what constitutes a marina. So certainly all the entities on the right are commercial marinas. They have the components that one would associate with a commercial marina. So certainly a boat slip, but a restaurant, gas facilities, electric, pump out facilities, boat repair facilities, showers, internet. There are various components that go into a commercially operated marina. It might be more accurate to say that we're in the distributed slip business or the geographically distributed slip business, right? So while we have a gas dock, you know, if your boat is not at the yacht club, you're not anywhere near the gas pump, right? So are you renting a marina type service or not? So that's certainly worth a consideration in terms of evaluating the rates. Let me pause there and see if there are questions about this.
Did you get any sense, Phil, of wait lists at these other marinas in terms of availability of slips?
Yeah, most of them had no availability, or they would say, I've got 1 or 2 docks right now. So they didn't talk. I don't recall specifically anybody saying, I'll put you on the wait list, because I don't have a boat. I was pretending I had a boat when I called them and asked. But most of them said, we don't have availability, or I have 1 or 2 lots at this point in time.
So basically, you're saying on Tellico Lake and the local area, there are really no slips really available.
There's very tight capacity on the lake.
Okay.
Yeah, I won't say there are no slips available, but you gotta be in the right place at the right time. All right, gym memberships. So same kind of thing here. On the left-hand side are our sister communities. On the right-hand side are our local gym alternatives here. So on the left-hand side, Wind River has their social membership fee, which I put in there. It's not apples to apples. I'll just call that out. But, that's what you are paying to have access to the gym. Fairfield Glade has a very unique business model. They are completely pay-as-you-go when it comes to their recreation facility. So you don't buy a gym membership there. Every time you want to use a facility, it's pay-as-you-go. So, it's $2.50 a day to use the gym. It's $4 an hour to play pickleball. Now you can buy an annual pickleball pass for $500. Well, that's pretty close to, a single membership here at Tellico Village. So what I did there was I built just a hypothetical mixture of activities saying, if you played pickleball a few hours a week, if you went to the gym a few hours a week, if you did the pool once in a while, and calculated that out and said, what would that cost you to do that for a household of 2? And I came up with a number of $1,310. Now, certainly, if you say, well, I don't do all those things, or I only do part of that, you can do the math and figure it out yourself. But the meter is running at Fairfield Glade when you want to do any of those recreational activities. Rarity Bay here does not have a gym membership. They don't have a gym facility. We have a special rate for Rarity Bay. And our rate for them is $1,055. And I think we have 44 people from Rarity Bay right now that pay us to come use our facilities. And then Tellico Village, you can see there the individual and family membership 670 and 400 and change there. On the right-hand side are local alternatives. If you said, I don't want to do that, I'll just go find me a gym somewhere. So starting at the top there, Davis Family YMCA. A lot of these had rates, age-based rate, either 60 and above or 62 and above or 65 and above and below. Some of them had an initiation fee. The one thing we didn't do in this analysis is I didn't look and say, how did their facilities stack up to our facilities? So for example, one of the lower cost alternatives there would be Gold's Gym in Lenore City. Well, Gold's Gym has exercise bikes and treadmills, and they have weights. They don't have any racket sports. They don't have a pool. They don't have any of those kinds of facilities. So if that's what you're looking for, you could go, join Gold's Gym and maybe save $1 or $2, but you're not getting the same set of facilities. So I'll just call that out as you would really have to kind of pay some attention as you looked at these to say, how did their facilities stack up to our facilities? Can I really get what it is I want? Like if I want to play pickleball or whatever. The average of the family membership there on the right-hand side is $864. So that kind of shows kind of where we're at. Again, the red bar kind of just takes the Tellico Village line all the way up through those alternatives.
Hey, Phil, do you know if any of these on the right have anything comparable to our offering of facilities?
Well, so I would say that in terms of facilities, I think the YMCA, has a similar set of facilities. I mean, they have weight equipment and cardio equipment. They have a pool. I think the area where you would be hard pressed to really see if there's an apples to apples comparison would be to look at their class offerings, right? What classes can you take in terms of yoga or other, activities that you would sign up to do?
But would any of them have pickleball and tennis?
So I think the YMCA's do have racket sports. I don't know. Again, we didn't go down the rabbit hole of saying, well, how many courts do they have, and are they covered or are they lighted, and are they, if they're tennis, are they clay courts or what? This is sort of a, what's it cost to join, and do they have some comparable facilities? Yeah. All right, golf. So golf comparisons this seems like this ought to be really easy, and it's not. So golf comparisons get really complex due to the various, day of the week, time of day, volume pricing, options. So to keep the comparison really simple, we simply sort of went to I'll call it their rate card rate for 18 holes, right, in a cart. And a couple of these are calculated numbers, so I will point that out here. So on the left-hand side are facilities that are community-based places, and a couple of them here that I will say that are calculated. The rate I show here for Rarity Bay is I took their $400 a month golf membership fee times 12, and I divided it by 50 rounds, and that gives you $96 a round if you're only playing 50 rounds a year. Same with Tennessee National. I took their $630 a month fee times 12 and divided it by 50 rounds and said, if I'm only playing 50 rounds at Tennessee National, that's costing me $151 a round. Now, presumably people that are living in Tennessee National and Rarity Bay are playing more golf than that. But, we sort of picked that's one round a week. Give us some sort of a baseline. On the right-hand side, we did a similar exercise looking for a guest without a member. So what do outsiders pay when they come in and use that particular facility if it's available? And you can kind of see in the parenthetical brackets there, some of them are only available certain days, like only on the weekends, or there are other restrictions. Fairfield Glade has multiple courses like we do. So there are always caveats on this, and you can read through all the footnotes. But big picture, this kind of shows you where we fall in terms of golf. Questions on that one? So we did then say, well, wait a minute, some of these gets pretty pricey unless you're playing a lot of golf, so let's play a lot of golf. What's the unlimited package at these communities? So Tennessee National, if you did the math, and that's $630 a month, you're looking at excess of $9,000 a year. That gets you unlimited golf. At Wind River and Rarity Bay, you're just over $7,000 a year. Here in Tellico Village, you're at $4,800 a year to have unlimited golf. So this just gives you a snapshot. If you play a lot of golf and the unlimited option looks valuable to you, this is what it would cost to pony up for that in these communities. Now, let me pause there. So I've shown you a lot of data. And sometimes it's kind of hard to see the forest for the trees, right? So we looked at this little piece, and we looked at this little piece, and we looked at this little piece, and we looked at this little piece. What's the all-in cost of living someplace? So we did a little exercise here, and again, this is our attempt at trying to level the playing field, if you will. So in the next series of slides, I'm going to show you the calculated costs in each of these communities. If you paid the assessment, if you played golf, if you joined the gym there, what's the all-in cost to do that? So we're going to start here with Tellico Village and Fairfield Glade. So Fairfield Glade is up top. Their assessments $912, a boat slip $950. This is the calculated number for their gym, again, based on a mix of activities. And you can say, well, I don't go to the gym that often, or I do this or I do that. So you could adjust that number, and then 50 rounds of golf. And it comes out around $6,022. You compare that to Tellico Village, $6,224. So we are neck and neck, if you will, with Fairfield Glade. In the box here, some costs that aren't included in this graph is their amenity reserve fee upon property transfer. So today, if you were buying into Fairfield Glade, you would pay that $5,000 fee up front, and then you would have those other costs. So we did the same kind of thing here then for Wind River. And there are 4 bars here because I did one based on the calculation of 50 rounds of golf, and I did one based on the calculation of unlimited golf. And I did that because when I did the 50 rounds of golf at Wind River, if you look there, that's the second bar down, their fees and 50 rounds of golf totals $10,670, and the unlimited golf totaled $10,680. So you can see they built their business model and priced their package so that at $50 50 rounds of golf, you're breaking even. You're better off to buy the unlimited package. If you're playing 20 rounds of golf a year, you do something different. So for that reason, I included both the 50 round calculation and the unlimited calculation. So you can see at 50 rounds of golf, their $10,670 would compare to our $6,224. With the unlimited golf, their $10,680 would compare to our $8,524. And then again in the box, other costs, there's the buy-in fee of either $50,000 or $100,000 to buy into that community. Rarity Bay, similar kind of story here. Because of the way they operate, we only looked at the unlimited golf option here. So the Tellico Village number here is the 8524. That's based on unlimited golf. The gym membership there is based on the assumption that you're paying to join our gym because you don't have one in Rarity Bay. And so their grand total comes out at $15,363. We're at $8524. Again, in the box, the other costs that you need to consider there is the social membership's $10,000 plus $250 a month. You got to spend $600 a year in their foods facilities. And then you can see the information there for the golf membership. And then the last of the sister communities here then is Tennessee National. So again, sort of because they're a sort of a all-in, unlimited golf kind of business model, I compared that to our unlimited golf. So 15,710 versus 8,524. And so that's kind of where that falls. Now, the last thing that we did, and when we started doing this head-to-head comparison, was we asked ourselves the question, well, okay, well, what if I don't want to live in a planned community? Could I just go do it myself, and could I move to Lenore City and play golf somewhere and join a gym somewhere and come out ahead? Fair question. So here's that calculation here. So if you move to Lenore City, in addition to paying the property tax, county property tax, which is not in here, if you live in Lenore City, you pay a city property tax, right? So we calculated the city property tax on a $500,000 home. And so the city property tax is $1,244. And then you would have to go find a place to put your boat. And the cheapest of the public marina options, if you can get a slip at Wind River, was $2,900 at Wind River. The most applicable gym option was to join the Davis Family YMCA for $804. And then the cheapest golf option was to play only on Mondays and Tuesdays at Avalon at $45 a round and play 50 rounds a year on Mondays and Tuesdays only. And that grand total would be $7,238. That compares to $6,224 living in Tellico Village. So again, if you said, look, I don't play golf, or I'm going to sell my boat, yeah, could you save some money? Sure, but try and keep things apples to apples. You're going to go to the gym, you're going to play golf, you're going to take advantage of the amenities that a planned community brings to you. Here's kind of what that apples to apples cost looks like. All that brings me back to where, well, I got one summary slide here. So again, a lot of data. I stripped out all the footnotes and the peripheral information and just put here, I just called it a snapshot. So on the left-hand side, there's monthly assessments. The orange bar is us. I didn't label everybody else. On the upper right is the boat slips. Again, the orange bar is us. I didn't label everybody else. On the gym memberships, the orange bar is us. I did put a couple of caveats on there because there are some calculated numbers in there. And then golf, 18 holes. So here you can just get a one-slide snapshot, monthly assessments, boat slips, gym memberships, and 50 rounds of golf for the year. How do we fall compared to the options that we looked at in this evaluation? Which then brings us back to where we started. I said values in the eye of the beholder. Whether you think the rates are good, competitive, fair, unfair, a good value, not a good value, the data would suggest that with sales at 2.5 times Fairfield Glade and getting more dollars per square foot for a home in Tellico Village than you do in any of these other communities, at least people coming here and voting with their dollars say, we think this is a pretty good deal. We're willing to spend more to come here and live. All right, so here's my summary slide. This data shows that Tellico Village costs are not the lowest and we're not the highest. And we are almost always below average in the comparison set. It is challenging, though, to make apples to apples comparisons, and the devil's in the details. So I would advise the board, if you're going to use data like this to try and make some informed decisions, you want to turn back to your advisory committees, golf, marinas, parks and recs, and say, help us understand these numbers better, so that when we look at our numbers, we really know that we're being as fair and as level in the playing field as we can. And then the last bullet, while values in the eye of the beholder, the MLS data certainly suggests that buyers place a premium on being in Tellico Village.